I have Alasdair Allan, followed by Beatrice Wishart.
Presiding Officer, may I firstly thank David Stewart warmly for securing this debate today. This is not an easy issue, but it is an important one. I welcome the focus which this debate can hopefully bring to some of the issues, and not least those issues faced by terminally ill people in the Highlands and Islands. As other members will have no doubt point out, dying is a taboo today in a way that it was not for an earlier generation. Scottish literature is full of accounts of unabashedly matter-of-fact family arguments in front of, or in some cases including, elderly relatives about the future catering arrangements which the family thinks adequate for that person's funeral. Conversations as pragmatic as that would, perhaps not completely without reason, be considered fairly shocking today. However, there is good reason occasionally in Parliament to break this modern taboo about dying, because unless we do, as a society, we risk ignoring a crucially important issue for everyone, ourselves included. As we will learn, I suspect, from other speakers in the course of the debate too, 70% of people would choose to die at home. And it is, of course, not always possible for everyone to be cared for at home in their last days. So I quote that statistic in no way to detract from the outstanding work which hospices, doctors, nurses, homes for the elderly, charities and many other people do to care for people. I think as an example of the enormous commitment shown by the Bethesda Hospice, among other organisations in my own constituency. What is a reality, however, is that most people, given the choice, would not choose to spend their last days on the ward of a hospital for want of any alternatives, although I am sorry to say that that does sometimes still happen. In fact, only 25% of people who died in 2017-18 did so at home. Some of the challenges are, of course, the same ones faced by people elsewhere in the country, but some of the challenges are very definitely different in the Highlands and in the islands in particular. In the islands, terminally ill people and their relatives face journeys of a totally different order of magnitude to anywhere else in the country just to meet hospital appointments. In the Highlands and Islands, finding a care package at home is often a difficult task, not for any lack of willingness on the part of very dedicated care workers, but because of the extreme difficulties faced in recruiting them in some places. Some care workers face 50-mile round trips and more in a day as a result. And while this debate is of itself not going to solve any of these challenges, it can at least helpfully identify them. Following the completion of the current strategic framework for action on palliative care in 2021, I hope we will start thinking ahead to the continual improvement we can make to services beyond that. Part of that challenge, to which, again, I do not claim to have the answer, is certainly going to be finding new ways to meet the urgent recruitment challenge now affecting many sectors in the Highlands and Islands. But another is ensuring that everyone who needs palliative care is identified with a right to express a preference for where they would like to be cared for and where they would like to die. And this should include the right, of course, to change their mind. Presiding Officer, I want to conclude really by recognising again the great work which is already happening to make these aims a reality, but to recognise also the distance still to be travelled to make sure everyone is treated in the way in which they would hope to be treated themselves.